Hi, this is Joe Gentili from Sarraf Gentile LLP. So today we have, for those, at least for those people looking to file these cases, we have a fun topic to discuss, and that's how these cases are settled and how the immigrant beneficiaries are ultimately paid. So before I get into this, just a kind of quick disclaimer on this. Everybody's case is different, and there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of considerations to think about before picking one of these options as to how to settle your case. So this is not a one size all fits thing. But generally, there's three options on how to settle your case. Let's say your sponsor, your ex-spouse, comes to the realization that they just owe this support and they have to pay it, and they're willing to come to the table to talk. There's three options that immediately jump to mind. So number one, and I think in most cases, this is probably the most beneficial option for everybody if it's possible, and that is to settle the case with a single lump sum payment. The sponsor can owe back support for time they didn't support when they should have. So say you separated a year ago, they will owe you that 1 year's worth of support plus the value of future support if you're going to give up the right to pursue that in the future. So they can settle that all in a lump sum. And the reason why this is probably most beneficial for everybody is from the immigrant's perspective. You don't have the risk of non-payment at that point because you're getting paid all up front. So there's, if your sponsor loses their job 6 months from now, changes their mind, decides to go into hiding, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You got paid up front. So you don't have to take on this risk. Plus, a lot of people have really poor relationships with the people who are not supporting them, their ex-spouses. And if it's all paid off at once, there's really no need, especially if there's no children involved, there's no need for any further contact ever. And from the point of view of the sponsor, if they can afford it, they like to do this because this gives them certainty. They don't have to worry that 5 years from now you're going to sue them again for support. So this is just a way to just kind of wrap it up and be done with it. Also, having all that money up front gives the immigrant more options on what they can do with their lives. It's just, if you have that lump sum up front and you just need to make a major purchase, go back to school, if there's legal services you need to get, whatever it is, you have funds now to do something and to take care of yourself. So that's great. Second option is they meaning the sponsor pays the back support, and then they just take on the monthly obligation to continue to support you until you're working. So this is typically not preferable for the immigrant. The reason being for that is that now you're taking on the risk of default. If your sponsor, again, loses their job a few months from when they settle, and all of a sudden they can't afford to make the payments, don't want to make the payments, you're going to have to potentially go back to court and go through this process again. You're going to have a lawyer involved in the process. It's just administratively more burdensome to deal with. The sponsor may look at it and say, well, this is the best I can do. I can't afford to make any large lump sum payment or anything like that. And they may want to do that even though they don't get a release. So with this type of arrangement, if the immigrant stops working and the sponsor stops supporting, they can be sued again. So they don't get finality with this. They don't get certainty that this is over. And then a third option is somewhere in the middle. So let's say that they can't afford to make a lump sum payment, but they could afford to make a decent sized payment. Then maybe what you do is you have a structured settlement where they pay, a third of the total amount now, and then a couple of months later they pay another installment, and then they pay a final installment a few months after that. And it's in the middle. It has the risks and the benefits of both, but in the middle. So the immigrant in that case doesn't have the same level of risk that their sponsor's not going to pay them, because there's a set amount of time that they have to pay for it, but the risk isn't zero. If the sponsor over the course of having to make some payments no longer can make the payments, that's a risk. But it's better than getting monthly payments. So if that's the best that you can do given your sponsor's financial situation, it's worth considering. So those are the most common options on how to settle these cases. And again, it really depends on the individual situation of your case to decide which is most beneficial. So again, we make a lot of videos on this subject. So if you're interested, I encourage you to subscribe and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thanks.